Like 111.
Oh, look,
Good evening, everybody. Chair Sarah Lingette is not going to be here this evening, so I'll be chairing the meeting as vice chair. Board seal. So welcome to the August 6th, 2026 meeting of the planning board. It is 6 p.m. seconds after 6 p.m. The Here tonight from the planning board, Penny Morrell, Rich Baker, Craig Alexander, and myself, George Seal. Also in the audience, Dan McKenzie of the fire chief of the fire department, and also Christian Bishop, who is one of the applicants on our agenda tonight. Sarah did ask me to mention that Nick Zaccaro, she had approved Nick Zaccaro's absence for tonight, and he will not be here. He's down in Boston.
Also Nick Alexander.
Yeah, is he online?
No, he will not.
Will not at all get any. Okay. I got
Yeah.
kind of confused by the email exchanges.
Yeah, the email, she excused him, he did,
Yeah, okay, so Nick
and
Alexander
the rest of that
will
is gonna be discussed.
also not be in attendance.
Yeah.
So with that, we will start with the shoreline zoning application.
Sure. She wanted us to decide on the, allowing him,
The
That's
plan,
gonna be
but
next
we're gonna,
meeting.
he's not online, he just decided not.
he's not feeling good, so he's not gonna be part of the meeting tonight, so we can't act on that when he's.
Well, we can, but we're gonna put it off.
Yeah, I wouldn't feel right about discussing it without his attendance.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so we're gonna.
Yeah, I didn't,
And we're not gonna do election of officers. That's all.
we did that last time.
Right.
So with that, Mr. Bishop, we'll start with your shoreline zoning permit application. This is at 70 Ambrose Cove Road. The map 47 lot 10, and it's a 24 by 15 expansion on the main house. With that, is there anything you'd like to tell us about this to summarize what you're proposing?
sure, and the version you have is the modified version. Originally, I wanted to go up, but we couldn't meet the height requirements, so I had to skip that part. And then to get the numbers to work and the formulas, I had to shave off a little bit from what I originally wanted to have for the expansion. So the project is expanding basically a bedroom, making it bigger, changing the roof pitch a little bit to make it a little better as far as that goes on the expansion. And then putting a boot room essentially over on the other side and squaring that whole section off. I forgot to submit when I did the application, so if the board likes, I did bring 4 pictures of the house. Because I don't know if I included that in there.
Yeah.
I did? Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't think I did. Well, there you go. So in there, if we're looking at the version that looked like this, the picture, this one, which is not numbered, this is where the expansion for the bedroom is coming off of from here. And it will be the type of A-frame that goes into the existing roof line. But then on this side, this is where the boot room part, basically this part of the house is gonna come all the way out. Right now, that's an indent, and then you go into the house, that's gonna come straight out where the existing deck is, and that is gonna be the entrance to the property. So I went through, I did all the math, I shrunk down again, and went instead of,
Do we?
Yes, you did.
it should be on the back side.
Right here.
I think I did it double sided, I'm not sure the version you've got though.
It'd be your second picture, I think that's.
Right there.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yep, so this is where we come into the main house today, and it's still gonna be, the stairs are gonna be the exact same spot. Same thing going in, it's just that it will go into a boot room. And then, once you're in the boot room, of course, then you'll have access to the main house, so that isn't gonna change. Much on that side, it's really the other side here where the expansion comes off.
This is dropped to 13.
I'm sorry, yeah,
Well, the deck is at 113 feet.
right.
The house is feeling,
But my understanding, of course, is that you go from the deck as far as the measurements from the
yeah,
water.
the high water, yes, we do.
Yep.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
Um. Any questions, Craig? Rich,
no.
or comments?
I didn't see on the application where the bedroom's gonna get bigger. Am I missing it?
I think I just called it expansion, 24 by
Yeah,
50
and it
expansion.
shows on the site plan,
It shows on the site, Shannon.
yeah. This- Hey,
I thought that is the deck. It's an expansion on the deck, right?
no, that's out the back.
Yeah, so if you look at this particular picture, this one.
Yeah.
Also. This is the existing deck, but the deck actually currently goes all the way over to that indent. That is gonna be the part where we close it in effectively. Then the expansion is this piece over here is the bedroom that's gonna be expanded.
I thought that was expansion of the deck. Yeah,
Good question.
But not adding a bedroom.
It's
Still
not,
two
it's
bedrooms.
expanding the existing bedroom. And we're not changing the bathrooms. My original plan was gonna include an upstairs and a bathroom up there and do that stuff, but it's the height requirements, you can't get over. And what I had missed when I originally did that is we have a walkout basement. So when you look at the
Oh.
walkout basement, you've got that extra, whatever, 8 feet or something. You take that and then you start trying to go up from there. You could probably squeeze in a loft, but you can't fit a full second floor, so that was all squashed.
Yeah,
Hans helped me squash that.
doing his job.
Assume both the cottage and the main structure. Were you before us a couple years ago?
I did,
Same project.
it is not the same project, we did the cottage before.
Yeah,
So the cottage itself was expanded, back 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's no change to that, everything's staying the same as far as that goes.
so both the cottage and the home have been there a long time.
They have, so these are grandfathered properties, 1983 was, or 81 is a little debate, but between 81 and 83, when they finished and moved in, was the main house, and the cottage was there since 1930 something.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long have you owned the property?
10 years, I'd have to double check, but it's right around that.
Okay, so you haven't purchased it
2015.
recently.
No, it's two, actually, I think we have it on there, right? Don't we have to look that up? I
Maybe,
think it was
I could have missed it.
2015. But yes, we've owned it for a long time.
Okay,
2015, not 15, that wouldn't work. But yeah, it would be 10 years at least.
the only reason I ask is, for purchases after 2018, the septic system has to be inspected.
Right. And we had, when we first bought the property, the cottage was in a cesspool kind of one. First thing I did was get that expanded. Not that, I had the main septic expanded, did all that. We did that through, I forget his name, but the original CEO who'd been in the town for a long time.
Yeah.
And we did all the permit stuff for that, put in a new upgraded pump tank, etc. So that cottage was basically leaching into the lake when I bought it. So we did some really expensive but really good upgrades.
Well, that's good. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, the next step in the process, in the approval of the permit is a legal one, and we have to do what's called findings of fact and law. It's a, I said,
Just like we
boring
did
legal
before.
requirement.
Just like we did before, understood.
Right, yeah, so with that, bear with us. So Hans has provided me with the copy of the form. And again, this is the findings of fact and conclusions of the law for Christian Bishop at 70 Ambrose Cove, map 47, lot 10. I won't bore you with the boilerplate. With respect to conclusions of law, The first question for us is the project is or is not project a permitted expansion of a principal structure? And I would say that it is a permitted. Yeah. Unless anybody objects to that. No. Um. um, That is under section 14, the land use table, and further makes the following conclusions based on the applicable provisions of section 16B of the ordinance. Number one, and we need to justify each of these, and as has been our past procedure, rather than writing everything out, we'll use an acronym, but it'll be based on the public record and application submittals. There is a knack for using a shorter acronym. That's why she's chair and I'm not. So number one, will maintain safe and healthful conditions by a vote of the board found this standard was or was not met. It assumed was.
Yes.
Yes, was,
Yes.
yes. I also vote yes, so, 4 yes, 0 no's. That again is based on the public record and application submittals. Number two, will not result in water pollution, erosion, or sedimentation to surface waters by a vote of the board found the standard was or was not met.
Was.
Was.
I also vote was. And again, that's BP or AS. Browse. Will adequately provide, number three, will adequately provide for disposal of all wastewaters.
NA.
Yeah, that really,
There's nothing, no new wastewater being.
no, there's no new bedrooms,
No.
NA, everybody in agreement with that. Number four, will not have an adverse impact on spawning grounds, fish, aquatic life, bird, or other wildlife habitat. By a vote of the board found the standard was or was not met.
NA.
And go right off, what was.
What's that?
Was. That doesn't.
Think it was, Matt.
Was
I'll go with that. To me, it doesn't
Okay.
affect them, but
four yes. 0
Anyway.
no. Will conserve shore cover and visual as well as actual points of access to inland waters. No clearings being proposed, so I would say this is NA.
Yeah.
oh, NA.
Is that acceptable to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
This NA. Number 6, will protect archaeological and historical resources as designated in the comprehensive plan. That's NA. One of the 4 sites. Number 7 will avoid problems associated with floodplain development and use. By a vote of board found the standard was not met.
Was,
Wasn't.
I also vote was for yes. 0, no. You are a. This is our question number 8, which asks about a number of questions regarding conformance with the land use standards of section 15. We'll go through, figure out, as always, we'll figure out which ones are applicable, and then we'll vote on them in mass. The first one is minimum lot standards. Principal and accessory structures, I assume that's applicable to campgrounds, NA, individual private campsites, NA, commercial industrial uses, NA, just speak up if disagree. Parking areas, NA, there's none proposed. Roads and driveways, none are proposed, so NA. Signs, NA. Stormwater is applicable. Septic waste disposal systems, I would argue that that's an NA. Everybody in agreement on that? Okay. Essential services, that's NA. Mineral exploration, NA. Agriculture, NA. Timber harvesting, land management roads, NA. Clearing and removal of vegetation or activities other than timber harvesting, none's proposed.
Yeah.
NA. Hazard trees, storm damaged trees, and dead tree removal, NA. Exemptions to clearing and vegetation removal requirements, that's NA. Revegetation requirements, that's NA since none is proposed. Erosion and sedimentation control, that stays in.
Yeah.
And I would just note for the record that the Ron Belvin, we have the right, no, sorry, wrong.
Yeah.
We do have this DEP certification number.
yeah,
Shoreline stabilization, that's NA. Soils, that's NA. Water quality is applicable, of course. Historical and archaeological sites, that's NA. Resource protection, this is not in resource protection district, so that's NA. So those land use standards that are applicable are minimum lot standards, principal and accessory structures, stormwater runoff. You have a stormwater runoff checklist here. Erosion sedimentation control, water quality, that is it. So by a vote of the board found that this standard was met based on the evidence in the record, and further as follows. So yet a vote of yes is verifies that we feel that it's met. These standards have been met.
yes,
Yes.
Yes.
I also vote yes, so that's 4 yes, 0 no's. Again, that's based on. Let's see. There's a number of conditions of approval. That standard conditions of approval that go with our record, with our permit. number one is to manage stormwater runoff from new and expanded structures in accordance with, refers to the applicable section of the ordinance, the Maine Department of Environmental Protection's best management practices. We have a plan that indicates the same, so that's no problem. Number two, the planning board's approval, and this is just for your benefit. You'll be getting a copy of this,
Sure.
by the way, so you'll have it from Hans. Planning board's approval of this project is limited to that described in the application and depicted in the accompanying site plan and other application submissions. I won't read the rest of it, but that's the gist of it. Number three, I'm not sure is applicable. It is for construction projects located within 100 horizontal feet. This is not within 100 horizontal feet, and it's also when there's clearing and vegetation removal being proposed. This is such that we need to check if that condition is applicable. I personally don't feel it is. Does anybody feel that it is?
No.
No? Okay, we're all in agreement. So that you will not check that. So the last is a final vote. Based on the above findings of fact and conclusions of law. Today's the 6th, right?
Yes.
6/26, Town of Belgrade Planning Board did approve by a vote of, and we'll vote in a second, the shoreline permit application. With the above conditions at a meeting on Bill, these findings of fact, conclusions of law, and adopted these findings. So please. Let us now vote, and the vote will be on approval of the application.
Yes.
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 I also vote yes. So it's 4 yes, 0 no. And I've signed it on behalf of Sarah. All set.
Great, thank you, everyone.
And we have,
Hans, thank you for helping me get it right. Thank you, everybody. As much as I'd like to sit here and listen to the rest of your meeting, the lake
there's
is
nothing on
calling me.
TV tonight. Oh, well, the Red Sox play later.
I will excuse myself. Thank you very much,
Yep.
folks.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Yeah.
So, our next application is Mr. John Clark. And is he in, oh, he's in attendance online.
Yes, he is.
Okay, very good. Good evening, Mr. Clark. You hear us okay? Think you're muted.
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Very good. So this is, again, another shoreline zoning application, for Mr. John Clark, of South Foreland. This is on map 16 lot 3. And the proposed construction or change of use, there's a boathouse maintenance and repair to the foundation. Among all the other information being provided in the application, we also have the notation that Ron Bellavance, is the DEP certified contractor. We have that information. And, Mr. Clark, if you wouldn't mind kind of giving us a synopsis of what you're proposing.
Sure. Basically, what's happened is there's a boathouse and a landing, and a front corner of the boathouse has fallen. The concrete foundation has come off, excuse me, quite a while ago, and just erosion underneath. I don't know when it was built, but it has, bed frames and bicycles and everything else you could imagine in there. So want to get all that out and get it replaced and, back in working order.
And by bed frames and bicycles, that's what they use for rebar
Right.
in the concrete.
Oh,
So the stuff was thrown on the shoreline and then they poured.
Does, I ask a question?
yeah, no, absolutely.
Does the application apply only to the boathouse or does it include the dock as well?
It's the whole structure. It's kind of contiguous.
Mhm. And are you just gonna basically re-pour a foundation to the boathouse and not? Or is there gonna be a rock? Granite type stuff?
No, it's going to be just basically just the repour of the concrete. So the old stuff taken out, forms put in and replaced.
I would just point out that there has been an application to DEP under the Natural Resources Protection Act. Does anybody know, Hans, do you know what the lifespan of those permits?
I believe it's 2 years.
I think we're right.
Since I've been to Laura, she has not responded to it.
Yeah, I think it's 2 years.
So that's not an issue.
Uh-huh.
Will there be any change in your use of that boathouse? Will it continue to be used for storage and boats and like, or are you proposing to use it for as a dwelling?
No changes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I have a question. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Just want to get it back to where it was.
Yeah. I'm wondering if this requires a permit.
I'm wondering too, we don't regulate pier docks.
We also know there's an exemption for maintenance too. Maintenance and repair in the ordinance.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would consider this under the maintenance clause.
I
Where
believe it also includes repair though.
it does some maintenance.
There's an out if you're doing 50% or less of your retaining wall. It is not, no permit required, but he's doing 80%, if not more. And there is going to be heavy equipment coffered in, set up. So there is going to be equipment on land, vegetation damage done. So
Yeah, I
there will be
personally
some
think
shoreline
this is
erosion.
Just maintenance.
Yeah. No,
There's
it's gonna have to get
there's a
runoff
definition of
protection.
maintenance and repair.
Oh, is there? Okay. Maintenance and repair of a structure. Perform tasks such as refinishing, cleaning, applying preventive or protective treatments, etc., on the exterior or interior of an existing structure or portion thereof. That's parentheses, that's called maintenance, without altering the defining characteristics and dimensions of the structure. To return an existing and deteriorated interior or exterior features of a structure to that feature's original functionality and condition by replacement of deteriorated material in kind or by use of a corrective materials and process. And that's considered repair. following undertakings are specifically included within the scope of maintenance and repair. Residing, replacement, deletion, or addition of doors and windows, replacement of sills, posts, cross walls, and foundations, screening of roof decks, porches, and breezeway.
I can see where it says foundation.
Yeah.
And I also was gonna bring up the issue of if the water, if it's over, the work being done over the water is under our ordinance is not the shoreline zone. Our shoreline zone starts at the normal high water line. We specifically did not regulate piers, docks, and wharves, which we could. So I'm willing to work between that and what George just read is what is maintenance and repair. But
Yes,
it's not a pier.
I don't-
With respect to the water quality threats, I mean, that's why it was required to go to DEP.
Mhm.
I mean, and they would probably inspect it. And ensure compliance, so.
This is a retaining wall, not a pier, dock, or a wharf.
The boathouse,
John, how much of the boathouse versus how much of the retaining wall is being done? About 50-50?
The retaining, so the part of the wall that abuts the shore,
Yeah,
it's much more of it goes out. It kind of looks like almost like an S coming out around a shore, and much more of it. The retaining wall, I would say, is the smallest portion of it.
okay.
You know what? I actually may have right here. 15. Yeah,
It's
so
like 40,
yeah, the part
40 or
that
50 feet.
Say that again?
Isn't there about 40 or 50 feet of retaining wall that you're repairing?
it looks like 26 along the shore, and
Right.
then 28 out on one side, 28 out on both sides. It just kind of does a little corner. So out in the water is 28 times 2 plus another 26. And then on the shore, along the shore is 26. If I'm understanding your question right.
yeah, I'm getting confused by why we're calling this a retaining wall when it's part of the foundation of the boathouse.
Apparently it's more than.
It's
Well,
more than
it's
that.
the-
Look at the photos.
Yeah, right.
There is the pier, okay, so that's disqualified, but from the pier over off to the picture, there's the 26 feet of retaining wall that is not above, below the high water mark.
So, Mr. Clark, I apologize, if you could just refer the photos that you provided in your
Yes.
application. And the photo that, let's see. It's a photo taken from shore, looking down the slope to your boathouse and then the dock to its right. I guess the question is it this? What in that photo is being replaced that's along the shoreline? Is it that large concrete structure / retaining wall, or is it just the foundation that's immediately underneath the boathouse?
Let me, if you can, let me just, I don't have, let me just see if I can, okay, so the picture you're referring to is, it shows it's looking at the boathouse. Is that correct? From the water?
From land.
From land. Okay.
Yeah, it's
And
looking down the slope.
okay, it does, and it looks like there's a boat lift on top there.
Correct.
Okay, so the part that's being going to be fixed, if you can see the first piece of concrete or looks like concrete that goes along there,
Correct. Yeah.
that's just a retaining wall. So that's not
Okay.
in, that's not being, um, that's not part of this. And that's about that's probably about 5 feet back from the water. Then
Okay.
that drops down, and then you go probably another 5 feet to the boathouse, and everything under the boathouse, which is what's in the water or right along the edge of the water, is what's going to be repaired.
That confirms for me that this is not in our jurisdiction.
I think you're right. My biggest problem when I looked at the application was, it really didn't tell me what was being done. Now, if you look, if you I think the same reason would answer this question. It was when I read the application, I thought, yeah, they're gonna replace the foundation, but I have no idea how it's gonna be done or what's gonna be. And I guess if we needed an application, I was gonna suggest that we get more information in terms of design of what's being done, but if we don't need an application at all, then we don't.
Yeah, and the permit by rule to DEP. I mean, that just is checked off as replacement of structures.
Well, on project summary, it says remove and repair foundation and boathouse. You know, repair.
Where is that on the
That
application?
would be 2 of 7 on the permit by rule.
House maintenance and repair, project summary, repair, boathouse foundation.
In comments below.
And repair boathouse foundation. That's consistent with what Mr. Clark just told us.
All right, well, you say no permit.
But what I'd like to do is, I'd like to have a motion, to the effect, of. I mean, it seems like we have consensus here, right? Correct, this does not require shoreline zone, what's proposed.
Is the work gonna be done above or some of the work above no high level?
Yes. Part of that retaining wall, it runs 26 feet along. the
Don't
shoreline.
use the word retaining wall, we just heard that it's not the retaining wall, it's the foundation of so the question, I think, is the most landward wall of the boathouse above normal high water mark.
Correct.
And do you know the answer to that?
Raise that question again.
Is the landward wall where the boathouse foundation parallels the shoreline, is that wall that's going to be replaced above the normal high water mark?
Yes, it is.
It is.
That's where the bicycles and the bed frames are kind of laying down the shoreline now, because the concrete that was around them was eroded.
So the base of it's beyond the lake. Into the shoreline.
Well, the northern shoreline from the boathouse goes out Snake Point.
I guess it really comes down to, in my mind, whether we consider that retaining wall as a replacement or is that maintenance? And
Well, it's not entirely gonna be removed, right, John? So it's maintenance.
Yeah, so can I ask a question? When you say retaining wall, which wall are you talking about?
To the north of your boathouse and your dock area. That runs up where the bed frames are sticking out of the shoreline.
That's not going to be, that's not part of this.
It's not.
No, so, well, you and I talked about me just, the only thing that would happen there is taking the steel out. That's not going to
Okay.
be, yeah, this permit should be just to replace and repair the foundation and, of the boathouse and the structure, right. That kind of, it's all kind of one piece right there.
Okay. All right, so it's reduced to just what's in the photographs.
So yeah, the photograph, I apologize, I don't know anybody's name. The photograph that I was talking to with the other gentleman about that has the boat lift on it, it's going to be everything underneath that. The retaining wall that we talked about, that's not going to be changed.
Okay, very good. There's your clarification.
I think, Hans, you and I talked about if that has to be repaired at some point, that I need to do a separate DEP permit by rule.
Okay.
Rich, does that answer your question?
yeah, I think so. I guess I'm good with it.
So,
Make the
do
motion.
we, are we in agreement that, this is a, repair and replacement of the foundation underneath the, boathouse exclusively, does not include the retaining wall and that's, on shore and, therefore, meets the exemption from maintenance and repair, maintenance and replacement.
Can I just say one thing? I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to make sure I'm doing this correctly. So when you look at that picture of the boathouse where the boat lift is, that's a dock that has a full foundation underneath it.
Okay, John. I think we're at a consensus here.
I guess, just to clarify the public record, I would still appreciate a motion and a vote.
To dismiss this one.
Yeah,
Just that the repair and the replacement meets the exemption.
Doesn't need a permit.
and does not require a permit.
I'll make that.
Who's making that motion? Are you, Penny? Okay,
I'll second.
Rich has seconded. All those in favor of the motion, Penny?
Yes.
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 I also vote yes for yes, 0 no. So, the spark, I think, we've, it took us probably as long to go through that as it would have if we gave you a permit, but, anyway.
Like I said, I just want to do it the right way. So,
Yeah, no, we appreciate that very much.
all right.
Did we get a refund?
That's
Well,
okay.
you got other stuff coming, so. All right, John.
All
Thank you
right.
very much. Have a good one. Thanks.
Yes, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. What I'd like to do, with regard to the agenda is, skip the, next item, the draft subdivision checklist review. And, since Dan is here tonight, and in respect for his time, move on to the, and likewise for the stormwater water management review plan. And skip to the battery energy storage systems, that he's here, discuss and for us to ruminate whatever we're gonna be doing. So, Dan, to be honest with you, I are not sure what Sarah actually asked of you, if anything specific. I have some questions for you, but probably some of the other board members do too, but mostly the minimal amount of work we've done on this so far in terms of research. And please correct me if I'm wrong, anybody from the board seems to have indicated that one of the key issues with these systems is fire protection, public safety. As you probably know, there have been some serious incidents in the state of New York with these systems. Maybe the technology's changed, maybe it hasn't, hard to know, but we very much wanted to have input from the fire department as we move forward with possibly adding an amendment to with performance standards for these kinds of facilities to the commercial development review ordinance.
Yeah, I mean, I've been just probably doing a bit more research these last 2 weeks. I mean, we have never run into this yet, but just in the battery cars and stuff like that they're a concern for us already, you know, like the Teslas. They've been proven you can't put them out. One thing now they've talked about is bringing out a dumpster that's waterproof and they set the car in that. You can't, we haven't,
Really?
and the other issue, we don't have hydrants, so we gotta haul our water.
Right.
And we won't be able to haul enough, even with mutual aid, probably to cool these things down to, especially being the mass that they're looking at. For those, the bigger systems, but I think you have limitations too, because you have a lot of houses that have the Tesla battery off grid. I don't know if there's any in Belgrade right now, but so they all have battery systems too, which so I think you gotta, in my opinion, look at the larger ones and the smaller ones. I don't know where that cutoff would be.
Yeah.
But right now, I mean, most mutual small towns like us are hurting people, you know. It's the manpower and
The
some
commercial development review ordinance, the nature of it is such that it only looks at non-residential uses, so. Those Tesla and other systems, we wouldn't have any jurisdiction over, so that would, you know, that could potentially be another problem, but.
Right, no, and I agree with that, I mean, I think that, I mean, we just gotta deal with that, and Tom had brought up a little. Cause I think he was a Tom Daniels, the one who kind of brought this up.
Yeah,
I think
he
he's
was.
dealing with one in New Hampshire right now, New York or somewhere. He was just saying, we did a quick paragraph, the technology is changing, so there's no way to link specific requirements for what would be needed. If the planning board is considering language in the CDRO to cover large battery systems, then there should be requirements of development. The developer applicant provides sufficient means for fire suppression. That considers their proposed equipment, and the fact Belgrade doesn't have municipal water or hydrants. I mean, some of these I think are written by people who are in favor of these systems, who says it's not a big fire hazard, you know, 1 in a minute. Happens in Belgrade or a small town like this, it's gonna be extremely hard to put out or.
So
As a matter of fact, they say not to put it, let it burn. What's that? The requirement.
well, we're talking about putting a 5-foot impervious membrane 5 feet down in the ground. We haven't decided how far away from whatever unit. We haven't decided size. But I'm kind of leaning towards 200 square feet, 10 to 20. If we allow them at all. So that's a good point to make the developer provide fire suppression. So it's on the developer. So that should be part of whatever we decide. But I want to be opposed to an all-out ban.
I think
You
we
see,
may legally have a
ban?
hard time doing that under this ordinance, but That's a question we can always pursue further. When Tom was here, one of the things he told us was that in some jurisdictions, they just plan to let them burn.
Yes.
And that the key is the amount of setback you have from any other structures, residences, or any other kind of
Depends how
structure.
bad the wind's blowing, you go downwind from that and evacuate them areas.
You have tall
Houses.
grass, on your strides it down. I have a forest fire that's going to houses.
I mean,
So,
similar to what we had for the tanker fire out here, it was determined through DEP and all that, to let it burn. It was safer to let it burn than to
Right,
let it go down into the water system and stuff.
right.
So,
It's not uncommon.
so would you, like Craig said, you build these things within a pit, so there's a wall around them to contain fire and as well as keep fire out, the
Well-
forest fire coming through?
what we've seen is, what I've seen in some of these ordinances is a impermeable membrane buried in the ground around it, not necessarily in a pit, but I wouldn't be opposed to that either. But so these were buried in the ground, so it would capture whatever was there. We could need it further enough away. So the stuff running off across the ground gets captured as well. Or just do something like a concrete pit that captures.
Or the membranes go to a runoff if you did address with water. You can't.
Uh, So something to capture all that stuff,
Yeah,
if it ever caught on
the
fire.
leachate from, if you're fighting the fire. And you know, I went to the state fire marshal's office website this afternoon, poked around a little bit, and I found nothing about this
Yeah,
there, but, I did happen to see, when I went to find the link for the document from the Maine Department of Energy Resources, I happened to notice they had like a news release kind of thing from end of July that they were working with the Public Utilities Commission. And they said the state fire marshal's office on some solicitation that the Public Utilities Commission is doing for these kinds of facilities in Maine. I didn't really understand it to be on that aspect of it, but I just wondered if you had any sense of what the state fire marshal's office might be in their involvement maybe, and if they're providing any guidance, to local fire departments or.
I haven't heard anything yet.
Yeah. Okay,
I think it's all a new thing. I'm sure they might be working. I can find out. There know people in there.
yeah. The reason I asked, of course, is there's a 15-acre facility being constructed in Gorham, so,
So,
which is big, even by the standard of their standards, these industrial sized ones. So I thought, you know, that might have been the crisis to light the match that
And they
usually
didn't
gets
have an
things done in
ordinance,
state
right?
government.
they didn't have an ordinance in Gorham, right?
No, they didn't.
Right.
No, they just did it under zoning. They don't have any specific standards.
I mean, I can see it being a problem for small environments. I mean, even if, I mean, Augusta, I mean, some even the hydrants, like Oakland's hydrants, we have to still haul water when they have a structure fire, because their hydrant system is not. As an old system.
From your perspective, is the challenge to a fire department like in Belgrade, is that mitigated at all by the size of the facility that we might allow in terms of the amount of megawatts, or is it sort of like it doesn't really matter?
But I mean. I see they're in a sealed container. I mean, I don't know how sealed they are, like you're talking about putting something underneath, but they all look like they're in connexes, the metal storage buildings, kind of. I just think the way they're talking, if they catch fire, you let them go. Oh, and then we're evacuating the neighborhood, depending which way the wind's blowing
Right,
and,
just almost like a hazardous materials
Yeah.
release, you know.
which we can have that in other things going down the road, just like we had the tanker fire, you know, so.
Right, right. On the railroad.
Yeah, that's another one. You don't know what's going down that lake every day.
Right. Buck and crude or something.
Yeah,
The one of the that state model ordinance that we've been looking at and kind of tentatively concluded that it might be a decent place for us to start, but we have to build onto it. As we talked before the meeting, it's pretty light on fire protection and
Everything
public
I've read,
safety.
that's pretty light on.
But I've New York and Massachusetts have more detailed, I guess you'd call them model ordinances. They're quite long and they're very technical, and much of it's over my head. But the and there's also we came across a model ordinance put out by the industry itself, which in some respects has more detail than the state model does, and at least in this specific subject area. But there's a lot of references to an NFPA standard that is specific to these facilities. It's NFPA 855. I didn't know if you knew anything about that,
No,
what it
I haven't.
contains, if it's like citing construction. I mean, I'm familiar with the ones that pertain to oil.
Right.
No,
No, I have to do the research through the fire marshal's office and that whole thing.
Yeah. Do you folks do you have access? I mean, you have to be a member, and of
To
course,
get in
the
it,
planning board
yeah.
isn't, but
Yeah,
do you get those manuals or can you get those?
yeah, we can get them, but I can look, see if it ain't that one, about that one, I would assume we could be able to.
Yeah, that would be helpful because, I
If
mean,
not, I get it from the fire.
yeah, because I did notice on their website, they haven't adopted that NFPA. I'm not sure that really matters that much, but in this instance, but I'm from my work at DEP, I was used to NFPA standards being incorporated by reference on a very regular basis.
And that will give you fire suppression and stuff like that.
Right, yeah, it's like, so that we don't end up playing at engineers,
Mhm.
which we're not qualified to do necessarily.
I think
At least
that's-
I'm not.
It was 855, I thought I read it in here.
Yeah.
All those.
Yeah, there's a reference to it, and others, other standards also do, as well. And so that would be helpful, because if that included, like, had recommendations on siting as well as construction and design, and operations, that would, as NFPA documents oftentimes do, that would be might be a useful.
And I'll call the fire marshals too, just see what they got going with it. They might be, like you say, behind the scenes are working just like you guys are working.
Yeah.
To get, all of a sudden, here's the first one, now we gotta do something.
Yeah. I mean, the odd thing is, I don't even know if Belgrade's a good candidate for one of these. I mean, we got 3-phase power now, but
Yeah, what I've been reading a little bit, I mean, it looks like they're doing it to store it. Then when there's a high demand, when AC's running, then they're gonna put it back onto the grid.
right.
So I mean, I don't know why, I mean, if it was near to the power lines, I think it would be suitable, If it was
Right.
down off a single phase line, none of that land, I don't think would be, like you say, would want to be in a 3-phase category, I would think.
Do you have a sense of why Orem was a good location in terms of the grid, things like that? I mean, there's that natural gas power plant there in Orem, of course,
Yeah,
but I'm not aware of a huge amount of solar or certainly not wind in the immediate area anyway, unless it's just because it's close to Portland.
weird. Interesting. There must have been a reason.
Yeah.
Maybe it was easy to get a permit. Maybe it's, I don't know.
Do other board members have any questions for Dan or things we should be discussing while we have Dan's time?
When there is a fire, what kind of, it may not be your bailiwick, but what kind of stuff is in that smoke that?
Can't imagine it's good for you. At all. I mean, it's gonna be plastics and all the stuff inside those batteries and.
The metals that hazardous materials too inside the batteries.
Do they have liquid in them or are they dry stuff?
I'm not sure.
I mean, from what you read, and you know, they might be saying it's like 1 in a million is gonna be a problem. And the technology, the safety's put into it, from what I've read, so, you know, if something starts overheating, it's gonna shut down. But that doesn't mean it's gonna stop it, you know.
Right. Well, that was, those kind of safeguards, you know, hopefully are in that NFPA
Right,
standard.
yeah, I'll get you guys a copy of it. We should have it, and I'll read
Wait,
it.
I'm sorry, NFPA stands for National Fire Protection Association. It's,
Yeah, it's got for everything we do, or a lot of people do. It
right.
has all the requirements that we have to deal with on a yearly basis.
Do you have any sense of, well, probably not at this point, because maybe it's a little, we just don't know enough yet, but, and I don't know what Tom's thoughts would be about this, but, a common thread in all of these is that there be mandatory training be provided at the cost of the developer to the local fire department, and in some cases, you know, like annual or whatever, refresher training or.
Which that's great, but like during the day here, you might get 2 of us. You know, that's the manpower problem, the training to do it, but when you get even when we have structure fires, and we're calling in more mutual aid towns than we ever have. The manpower is not there locally, in Oakland and.
Right,
Working wherever. It's just-
right, yeah, so this
It's
just
manpower.
keeps on these kind of facilities. Heaven forbid we ever should get a data center.
It's just, so you get hired for volunteers to do the job, and
Yeah.
even putting on full-time people, I mean, you still have to call in mutual aid, it doesn't.
Rich, to answer your question, I don't know specifically the answer to that, but I did read online, because New York State had several fires 4 or 5 years ago. They did a study afterwards to look at. They basically did an environmental site assessment at each of these sites and downwind, and I never saw the results, but they characterized it as no serious contamination. I don't know what that means. What they may not consider serious in Maine might not be considered, might be considered a whole different
Right.
matter. But
And maybe they have some suppression systems in it, I don't know. I don't know enough about them, and maybe NFPA requires it, a suppression
yeah,
system.
I don't know either.
And I assume these facilities are kind of, they're not inside warehouse type facility, they're outside and they're battery.
It's like looking at a shipping container.
Yeah, that's what it looks like, if you look at them online, they look like I call them a Connect shipping container, like metal construction.
So I was saying, turn the 24.
Yeah.
I mean, the only other thing I can suggest, like you say, if you make a containment system, is that you have a pipe runoff, dry pipe that we can hook into 300-400 feet away in a safe zone, that when we can flood it. By just hooking a truck to it and flood it. There's options, you know.
The as we work our way through this, particularly once we get, and I don't know how long this will take us to get to this point, but will you and maybe Tom be willing to review what we're coming up with?
Yeah, I mean, Tom's a busy guy too, and but yeah, no, I think come this fall, so we probably come back for a meeting. Probably get him to come.
Yeah,
Right now, he's ready to illustrate.
yeah. Well,
But yeah, but I can do some. I'll get you some information and
Yeah.
Sorry.
well, a good start, at least from my perspective, would be if we could take a look at that NFPA document. That would answer some questions as to, you know, is that inclusive enough, and also for you to look at it kind of advise us whether it's inclusive enough on the fire safety aspects. Um, that maybe we just incorporate that by reference and then don't have to specify all the stuff in an ordinance that nobody's gonna read.
And no, I didn't see that. They must have a solar panels on top of that to charge the batteries, then to send back out on the grid. Well, I'm assuming they come as a kit package. Because how else are they charging unless it's, I imagine they're
taking power from the grid.
Yeah.
taking it, that's what they're doing, and then sending it when
They're
they're,
low.
and just holding it.
Yeah, and then releasing it again
Yeah.
with some kind of switching mechanism. They are sometimes associated with a solar facility or a wind power facility to store, you know, when it's the wind isn't blowing or it's a cloudy day or in the winter, you know, it's probably unlikely given our ordinance that we'll ever see a solar facility in Belgrade, but it could happen, I suppose. So my personal opinion is that the more likely is some standalone that's just connected to the grid. I mean, it would seem to me towns like Sydney that are more in the industrial corridor or, you know, closer to Waterville and Augusta might be a better candidate, but what do I know? I really don't.
They can make money at it, they'll put it in.
Yeah, exactly. And the state's promoting this too as part of the overall energy plan, and so you have that impetus as well. And so it isn't just the free market. There's some, I don't know that there's subsidies per se, but you know, when you have like the Public Utilities Commission.
Is he weighed in on this?
Uh,
Or is that not?
I actually don't know. I think they might. I think they're whether they have specific standards for these. I haven't seen any. I went to their site location and development law, which is sort of like, you know, the statewide version of our commercial development review ordinance. I don't think has specific standards, but it would fall under that.
Right.
And if it was over 3 acres or so it'd have to be a bigger facility or what's the other standard? But more likely if they had more 3 acres or more of buildings and site development. So 3 acres is still big by our state, you know, for a town like Belgrade. So that could still be a lot of batteries. Greg, you probably did more research than the rest of us. I don't know if there's anything else that you think we should mention to Dan or.
No,
We really haven't made much progress. We've been kind of chasing our tails trying to get up to speed. I mean,
I've just been reading up on that.
Yeah.
Just trying to. You know,
I mean,
I'd like to have some fairly strict.
your thought about, and I, you know, maybe this will be a requirement in NFP in that National Fire Protection Association document I mentioned, but your idea about basically treating this like a hazardous waste facility where you have a liner, not to deal with the fire or air emissions in the event of a fire, but any leachate or runoff getting into groundwater. You know, it's not unlike at CMP where they store the transformers there in Augusta. That's all got a impermeable liner under it. You know, it's just standard practice in those kinds of facilities. This is a little different, but.
And I read that in someone's ordinance. I can't remember which one, but
Yeah.
I probably got it in there somewhere.
Okay. It's in there. It's in the book.
So I'd have to refresh my memory.
Yeah.
It's been a minute. But yeah, that was in one of the ordinances that I read, whether it be online or if I printed it out. I might have printed it out.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, it's sort of associated like that is there a number of these have decommissioning requirements and like we did with the solar facility, I would like to consider an environmental site assessment as part of that, see if there have been any, you know, discharges, or particularly if there was a fire, or some kind of similar type of incident, to ensure before that's turned into another use that people know what's underneath there.
You probably haven't gone far enough to see what would they do, they put the salina under. Would just fill up with rainwater unless there was some kind of a drainage or whatever, that during normal times.
Oh, if you had a liner?
If you had a line,
Oh.
over time it would fill up with water. Unless you had a drain that you shut off. We left the drain open until there was an incident, when they would shut the drain.
Like a diving facility
Yeah,
at one of
almost
the
like a
terminals
dive.
down in South Portland.
No, I don't know.
Well.
That's a good question.
We don't have to decide it tonight.
Good point.
Dan, do you have any questions for us, or
No?
anything you want to make sure we think
No,
about?
I'll read some more on it, I did read some when I had a minute, but, not something definitely to look at.
I mean, it would be great if the fire marshal's office took a little bit more, took a leadership role on this, you know, because,
And they might have got caught off guard with the Gorham one, and now they're.
yeah, right. I mean, that's kind of
Said,
how,
"Oh, nobody will bring one to
knowing
me."
from personal experience, that's kind of how state government works.
You're right. But I know quite a few people down there, so I can talk to them.
Okay. Nothing more for me. If anybody else have any questions, or,
No.
Would you rather have a hard copy of that, or just electronic?
electronic probably be easier to circulate, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
We can print it off.
Yeah, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
that'd be fantastic. Well, we very much appreciate you taking
No,
time out of
like I said, I'll probably bring Tom back. We'll get you some more information if you want us to come back, and we can.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for Sarah, but my thought is, I mean, we also have a fair amount on our plate here, but well, it ebbs and flows. I mean, it's hard to predict, but so, you know, there won't be anything, you won't see anything right. But is my best guess, but probably once we've had a chance to start as a group, look at that NFPA document and see how far that moves the ball forward. That might be after that might be a good time to sit down again if you guys are willing.
Absolutely.
See where we're at.
A little easier come fall anyway, or winter, and they slow down a little bit.
Yeah, right. Although sometimes not.
True. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you
All right.
very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks so much, Dan.
Yeah, good night.
Night.
So getting back up to the item C of the agenda, the subdivision checklist. As you saw, I did, as promised, finish a somewhat rough first draft. Couple of things worth noting, and then I'll just turn it over to you folks. Anyway, be that as it may, as I went, first off, despite me being sort of a smart ass at that last meeting about the length of some of the other towns, this is as long, if not longer. Part of it's the formatting. Part of it is, the major part is capturing everything that's required in the way of submissions to ensure somebody submits a complete application, whether it be a minor or a major subdivision. But that aside, largely it follows the ordinances Hans had suggested at the last meeting. And summarizes the different submission requirements. I did run into issues with some things, and I made notes of those in red italics for us to discuss and get your thoughts on see what you want to do. There are a number of those. The biggest thing, though, that I ran into, biggest question was the way the ordinance is organized. You have, let's say, it doesn't matter if we're talking minor or major subdivision, but you basically have, of course, you got the sketch plan meeting and then you got the preliminary application, and then you got the final application. And that's how the first part of the ordinance is organized. And in each of those, there's certain submissions. There's some duplication between the preliminary and the final applications, particularly with regard to the survey. But then there's this whole body of performance standards at the end of the ordinance that may or may not apply. Things like road construction standards, buffers around streams, things like that. And I've highlighted a list, I included a list of those at the end. And the question I have is, how do we deal with those? They're not going to be required in every subdivision. And necessarily, particularly with regard to minor subdivisions. I mean, by definition, road construction standards aren't going to apply to a minor subdivision. As an example. But on the other hand, if we don't address it in the checklist, the downside of that is and rely basically us as individual board members to remember to bring those issues up as we're reviewing an application, is that we will probably catch the applicant by surprise.
Yeah, so to include them, and then they can say NA of.
Well, or somebody brings in an application, for example, and there's a small perennial stream flowing through it. Well, there's in the first part of the ordinance, there's nothing that says you need to put a setback around that, maintain a setback around that, or include that in your survey. It's only in the latter part of the ordinance that says before the planning board can approve it, it has to have that setback. Well, my personal bias is to be upfront with the applicant and tell them about that, and then we can decide whether it's applicable or not. But so that's the dilemma, and that's what's on.
I think the purpose of it is to help the applicant in the process, so we have everything him to think about in it. Then he can ignore what doesn't apply, like if he doesn't have that wetland that they ever wouldn't apply, and he could keep hanging on.
I mean,
But
and
he did, and that meant another meeting because we didn't have dinner.
right, yeah. From their perspective, that's the downside. It might mean additional money they hadn't planned on, and probably additional time to get approval.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to avoid.
And I think those issues probably are greater with a major subdivision than with a minor subdivision, but anyway, that's what's on, that's the question on page 16, I guess it is, so.
Page 16.
So do you want to address the red things?
Well,
as they come?
well, we can do this as however you folks would like. I mean, I certainly would be interested in your initial impressions and also, but at a minimum, I think we need to discuss, the items in red and then whatever other, issues you've identified, as well. We can go page by page if you want. We can just focus on the ones in red for now and I mean, one of the things that, I would hesitate, to go so far as, I wouldn't want to approve anything tonight because of other members not being here. You know,
Sarah?
the two Yicks and Sarah. I think we should wait until we have more members here, is my
Agree.
personal feeling. But, I'm certainly willing to be flexible in terms of how we proceed.
I included a copy of our present subdivision application.
No,
So maybe we could run through your checklist and make sure we can get rid of some redundancy. Because if there's items in the checklist that are already done in the application, do they need to be in both places?
That's a good point. Well, let's talk about that. Does it, I mean,
Well, the checklist is make sure it's all in the application.
yeah.
And to notify the people.
And there are a lot of submissions, including the survey, for example, that, obviously you're not going to be part of the application form per se. It does address a lot of the a lot of the items in the checklist.
I mean, like number 4, location, map including nearby, if they've got the location listed here, map, lot number, the street address. Why do nearby subdivisions, what relevant is that to the existing?
I'm just repeating what's in the ordinance. Yeah, I mean, obviously didn't make anything up as I went. I don't know, the relevance, there are other things in here that I came across that, well, there's a couple things I actually wonder if they're errors. And there's a couple things that I came across, and one of those, is there's a requirement for going through the findings of fact and law after the preliminary, at the time of the preliminary. And that doesn't make any sense to me. There's a provision also that we find whether it's complete or not. That makes perfect sense, but going through that, it seems like maybe that got screwed up in the drafting. I know, Craig, you were on the board at the time. Maybe, I don't know if you just arrived or anyway, and Rich, you were. The context of when we're doing this, you may recall, was we were almost at the end when the guy from KV Cog who was helping us left. And we kind of got left in the lurch. And I, sometimes wonder, did some things not get completely finished as a result of that? That, if he'd been able to stay on.
So we could put that in this, move it to where it needs to go.
Yeah, and that's one of the things in red that one of the questions I've identified for
But it would that mean changing the ordinance too, wouldn't it?
well, yeah,
Correct.
in some cases it might, yeah. I mean, this may give us some ideas for changes that might be appropriate.
Yeah.
But get back to Hans's question, which is a good one. What should be the difference between these two documents? The way I approached this was, and the way the ordinance kind of approaches it is, this is one standalone document. And then there's all these other submissions, including the survey and any soils work and, those kinds of things. Road design, that is not, it'd be really, I personally don't know how you'd ever do an application that would capture all that information. I don't know what thoughts you had.
Well, my thought is that once you get rid of the redundancy, okay, because if you don't have location on your application, you don't have a complete application. So having that on a checklist is just kind of like saying, yeah, we read the application.
Oh, okay, I see where you're going.
And once we get rid of the redundancy, well, the things that are remaining, why don't we just put those in the back of the application, also include? And if it's not applicable, they can say not applicable. No, if it's not protected area, or they don't need a phosphorus control plan or whatever, then not applicable, or, covered through a waiver. Because, waivers address a lot of these things too. So the more documents they have, the muddier the water's gonna be.
So basically eliminate from the checklist any information that the application already captures, because this is, did you submit your checklist, your application? Yes, no, check. And I mean, that's something as I go back to this, I could do rather than us spending a lot of time tonight doing and cross-referencing and just taking out of the checklist that others agree, anything like location or
find what's missing from the application.
Yeah.
And have that reduced list.
Reduce the
We address
checklist that way.
the red ink items on the reduced list and see how we want to address that.
What I could do is identify those and maybe put it in a different color, or put them in, and that way we'll bring it back and everybody can take a look at it and see if everybody's in agreement to just take it out of the checklist since it's already in the application.
And I understand, but at the same time, I'm thinking, isn't the purpose of the checklist to make sure the application is complete? If you take it out of the,
Oh, yeah.
take it out of the checklist, how do you, just,
Well, I think what Hans is suggesting, only take it out of the checklist if it's already being asked, that same information is in the application.
Oh, I hear what Richard's saying. Richard's saying the checklist is supposed to be redundant to make sure that you do have everything. It's double checking.
because we're
all
trying
the
to
information.
see if the application is complete. And if it's not in the checklist. I don't,
I hear you.
Because our other
That's the other side of
checklist,
my coin.
our other checklist is,
I mean,
not commercial, isn't it?
it,
Kind of.
at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me. It's, I can go either way. I was just,
my thought is you're doing a pretty good job so far. I don't think we really need to go back and start over, if you will.
well, yeah, no, I'm not concerned about that. Why don't I do this? Why don't I, try to highlight in this draft, those items that are already addressed in the application or asked for in the application, and then we can discuss them individually. Would that be a reasonable approach?
Sure. And I also have one more thing.
Sure.
On page 2. Yeah, if it's a minor subdivision procedure, next page, which is major. Skip page, whatever. So can we have this so people know where to stop on a minor subdivision or what's in a minor subdivision and what's in a major subdivision?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's plenty of room on that page as it turns out without you. So just add,
Applicant would know.
So the applicant would know which they need to go and submit. Rather,
in case they could maybe go one way or the other.
right, what's included in the minor and what's,
Yeah.
major, obviously, is gonna be the larger.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So
I mean, I tried to stay away from,
that was a good start, but
too much duplication of the ordinance itself, but that's a reasonable question that they would ask themselves.
Even if we can highlight it with a, just a, some sort of symbol for minor. Major, just going through, I don't know, I'm not good at that stuff, but just so there's a differentiate. So people know.
Oh, you mean in the checklist?
Yeah,
It does, so the first couple of sections are minor only.
minor only, then it stops.
Yeah, then it stops and then it starts, so that's why it's so long,
And
because
minor,
then it switches over to major. There's some overlap, of course, but yeah, no,
so you've already.
yeah, and so my thought was, okay, so this in the bold here on page 2, so that if it's a minor subdivision, just continue on to the next page, which starts minor subdivision preliminary plan. But if it's a major subdivision,
No.
skip to whatever the page is going to be.
Yeah. No, you got page 9, right? No.
But
That's good.
it sounded like you were also suggesting maybe telling them what is a minor subdivision and what is a major subdivision.
Yes.
Is that
An explanation would be.
Yeah. okay?
Even though
All right.
it's kind of in there, but. All right, I'm sorry, I missed that.
That's fine. Yeah, that's why it's so long, really, because yeah, because otherwise, you're right, you'd have to have some kind of designation so that the person going through minor subdivision didn't do
Get
the
into that.
work that they didn't need to.
That's
I guess, I don't know how far you folks want to take this tonight, since, 3 folks are missing, but the, get into the weeds, but, you'll see that I included not only what needs to be submitted, but what our obligations are, our time frame for doing different things are for a minor subdivision or a major subdivision. Like on page 5, the preliminary review for a minor subdivision, there's certain things that the ordinance requires us to do. And I thought it would be helpful, at least the way my mind works, would be helpful to me to have that sort of in a list form rather than having to poke around in the ordinance and try to find it. But I just wonder what you all think about that.
So, and here we're notifying the abutters before we have a complete application. And it's just the abutting property owners from minor not within 500 feet.
Yeah, notifying them once we have a complete application, right? That's what the ordinance says.
Well, it says within 3 days of preliminary application received, it doesn't say complete, it says.
Oh, I see what you're saying, that there's a conflict there.
Yeah, it doesn't say complete application, it says receipt number.
Let me look at that again, Hans. I wonder if I got that wrong. Or if there's a. Hans, there's something that I didn't even frankly, be honest with you, really pick up on or know about. Certainly, and that was a provision in the ordinance that impacts you. If you go to page 8, for example, so it comes up at the time of final approval. It's number 1 where we need to determine whether or not the applicant has another subdivision that's in violation of its approval. And obviously the board's not gonna know that. We're gonna have to rely on you. And that seemed like an awkward place to have that for a couple of reasons for me. But first off, I didn't know it was even there in the ordinance. Two, and that might actually be in state law. But anyway, be that as it may, it's in the ordinance. But this is sort of what we were talking about, what Penny was talking about earlier. It only comes up at the time of the way the ordinance is crafted, at the time of the final approval. And wouldn't it make more sense to have that at the preliminary review stage so that the applicant would know that may be an issue? And also from our perspective, do we really want to be wasting time on an application that can't move forward?
Yeah,
I agree with that. Or the applicant should know that he's not gonna get approval at the end because he's got a violation somewhere else. He probably ought to know that before he puts on.
but I'm curious what would constitute a violation, because this board in the town does not enforce subdivision rules or conditions, you know.
Well, the town obviously would enforce. This would be only for a subdivision that was approved under the town subdivision ordinance, of course, so it's like any other ordinance.
What violation might exist?
I don't know, soil erosion or. I mean, I'm not even, like the subdivision that's next to me, there's no violations there, but well, actually, I don't know if you consider this a violation at the time, but the runoff in the ditches on the side of the road when that this is east-west, was called east-west estate or something like that at the time. The runoff was supposed to be diverted into the woods. And Gary had to go back to the developer and ask him to correct that because they didn't do it. Stuff like that, I guess. I don't, I would think that a lot of it might be soil erosion related, maybe, I don't know, associated with a road, that is, if you had a major subdivision in a road. Because really a lot of the other stuff is going to be sort of in the hands of the individual homeowner or whoever's building the individual homes, unless they're all spec houses, which that doesn't happen very often anymore.
So what happens with a minor subdivision anyways?
No written.
Because after 5 years, does that minor subdivision dissolve? So, take them for instance, what we just had with Peter.
Oh, Mr. Dion?
Dion, yeah. I mean, that was just months from being not a minor anyways.
Right, not being a subdivision.
Right. So what happens when we do a minor subdivision? The time frame passes. Is it still considered a subdivision?
I believe so, yeah. The way I look at it anyway is that in the definition of subdivision in state law and consequently our ordinance, that if you take more than 5 years or more than 5 years expires when you created the lots, the 3 or more lots, then you're exempt. But once you're not exempt, you're, once a subdivision, always a subdivision, is my understanding.
that can make it more difficult 10 years down the road.
Well, when we get empty that file cabinets in my office, we went 10 years with no new subdivisions, so they would all have been dissolved, right?
No, he's saying they're always a subdivision.
Yeah, that's what I would assume.
Yeah, once they meet the definition of subdivision, right,
They're
but
always,
if they're exempt, then they're always exempt. For those lots that they created at that time, I mean, there's plenty of. People
So
that
say-
planned it out such that way. Maybe I'm not. getting to the-
Because if he hadn't subdivided. In 3 months, he could have sold another lot.
Right,
Subdivision.
right, he could have taken advantage of that
So
exemption.
now that he's subdivided, even though it's 3 months away. He would have to go through a whole major process again.
No, we approved for what he was proposing that was gonna
Yeah, but
happen.
if you wanted to sell another one,
Oh,
you'd have to do a revision.
well,
so he would have to go back where he would be allowed to. If he would have waited the 2 or 3 months,
no, that's true. That's true. He would have to amend his,
so now he's gotta come through and deal with the that's why I'm asking,
yeah,
does it at some point? Dissolve,
expire.
expire, because it's a minor subdivision and you're allowed. 3 lots every 5 years.
So the way the ordinance tries to deal with that. And so that somebody, particularly with a minor subdivision. Doesn't have to jump through the same hoops that they did initially, is that there's a section that deals only with amendments. And, we shouldn't. I
You don't know.
So if they're just. I can't remember exactly how it works, but if you're. And this may be one of those areas that we should look at again, in term. If we're considering other amendments, but. I think, if we're a minor subdivision. I shouldn't say, I can't remember, I'm sorry, Rick. But it tries to make a distinction. That a more, there's more information required if you're like building more roads or something like that. And what I can't remember is. If you're adding just one lot. What do you have to submit? I mean, the ones that we've done so far, it's been a letter and a revised. Survey showing that additional lot. And nothing more than that. And by the way, when we review that, I do recall this part, the ordinance. Narrows the scope of our review to just what's being added, not the whole kettle of fish again. Anyway, you might want to take a look at that. I'm sorry, I can't remember.
So I think we should wait till we have a full board to. Do the rest of it.
Okay. Everybody else,
That's fine.
Make it more.
any suggestions that maybe I should work on between now and then, or, we talked about moving this business with, any violations to the preliminary. And is there something else that we talked about? Oh, yeah, with regard to, Craig's suggestion of adding some explanation about the difference between a minor and a major.
Well, it's already in, oh, yeah.
It's like
You're gonna
Peter,
highlight.
Peter was going down.
And also the duplication.
Yeah, well, because Peter was going down the major subdivision road, then once he realized that smaller lots means minor. He revised it to be a minor, and I think the awareness on the application is only fair to the applicant. If we can put that out there. Because they don't read the ordinance line by line as they fill out the application.
Right. Just write himself a note. Anything else for tonight, anyway?
My only, you first started out on, I think, this list of, list of items. Is it possible to just kind of at the end of the checklist, have like other items that may be important, of other important items that apply to certain may apply to certain subdivisions?
Yeah, no, that's certainly one way we could skin that cat.
What that's not gonna do is have the applicant catch it. We would catch it if it's not there. But,
Yeah,
could just have kind of a list of those things that we need to be aware of, that we need to make sure we are comfortable with at the end.
yeah. And is it, you know, I mean, left to my own devices, I would probably opt for putting most of these into probably the preliminary. And then as we get to it, deciding whether it's applicable or not. But this is important. This would, if you did that, it would do two things that may or may not be good. One is it certainly would ensure that the applicant knew about them and help them decide whether or not they needed to plan for that in their planning and their design. What it gets away from, though, is what Hans suggested, that the checklist follow the order of the ordinance. These are like the second half of the ordinance, and everything before that is in the first half. So it mucks up that. I think it's something to think about between now and the next time we take this up, because
You put it in the preliminary, there's an applicant gonna look at that and say, oh, I need to get this, this, and this, and do all that work. That doesn't apply. Because we haven't decided whether it applies.
yeah, I suppose that's the risk, isn't it? That they spend money and time on something that doesn't apply to them.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, it's gonna be hard to nail everything in that, so.
Yeah, that's right. You never.
Pretty hard to do that, so.
I mean, there are a few of these that are, you know, kind of universal, that would probably apply to both minor and major, like, showing the drinking well location standards. A lot of times they're not going to know where it is because the homeowner's that's only going to be, the well will only be put in once somebody buys the lot. And so the developer has no clue. So that's going to be not applicable in a lot of cases, but we don't, yeah. Actually, that might be a good one that is what yours, maybe that might mislead somebody to think they have to put the well in or something. Anyway, if I had a good answer, I wouldn't have put it as a question.
Would that be
But, you know,
something,
at a minimum, we could do what you were suggesting, Rich.
would that be something that, when they look at it, they could check with Hans? Go over this stuff with Hans to, eliminate the stuff that doesn't apply to them?
Yeah, I don't know if that's fair to Hans, Hans, I mean, we haven't done that many subdivisions to like. Has it been the case? I mean, I got the impression Mr. Dion consulted with you considerably. Um, what are your thoughts about that? What Penny's suggesting?
I don't think it's appropriate because it's an application going before this board. It's not for me to predetermine what goes on the application and what doesn't. I mean, it also puts the town in liability. Let's just say I tell them they've got to do these surveys and they spend the money. And then they determine they really didn't have to, so they want their money back. And who are they gonna go after?
So the alternative is more than one meeting to get through all this stuff. No.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to anyway, just. I mean, even if we were all in agreement and we're all happy with what I've put together so far tonight, I would be very reluctant for us to vote on it. Because of three.
No, but I
folks.
mean, I'm talking about the application.
Oh,
Yeah. We don't, if we're not able to help the applicant sort out what they have to do and what they don't have to do ahead of the thing, we're talking more than.
yeah.
For them.
Here would be my inclination and probably piss people off doing it this way, but say we just didn't put this in the checklist at all, this stuff. I would probably try to review the application enough to have, so that at the preliminary thing, I personally would try to raise some of these if I thought it was applicable. So if somebody had a stream, but that relies on, in the example I'm giving, me being thorough, and I may not be. I may not even understand the subdivision at that point, so I don't know, there's a lot of pluses and minuses. Because the way the ordinance is crafted at the end of the day, these are things we need to make, if it applies, we need to make sure they follow it,
Yeah,
so before we approve it, and so.
the idea is to help the applicant, but at the same time, we need to cover up all of our bases.
Yeah.
And that's what this. Yeah.
In some ways, the checklist, if the applicant had the checklist, he's probably better off than he was having the application, because he knows everything that we're expecting from him.
Yeah.
Versus the applicant, and I know you can't do that, but.
At the same time, not everything entered on the checklist. If they went through and just tried to satisfy the checklist, they're gonna provide more information than is required.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, this is no substitute for their good judgment on what applies and what doesn't apply to their particular site. And there's no way that I or anybody else can craft a checklist that does that.
This was really a lot of work and we appreciate your job.
Yeah, it is.
So,
So many times, and I'm not suggesting we go back and amend the ordinance because of this question, but how many times do we actually use 12 applications?
Never.
I was gonna say.
That's why I don't make them submit even 5. Give me one electronic copy and I'll print off what we need.
My thought was I mean, the ordinance says submit 12. Well, that's pretty unreasonable, and I think,
The only thing I'd say that would provide copies for the public. If they were
Right.
public,
assuming there wasn't public.
yeah.
I mean, in the checklist, you can't change the ordinance, of course, but it could be worded saying, something like. The board could require up to 12, but, submit one. And maybe one electronically. I don't know what people think about that, so that Hans doesn't have to be the one that has to scan it, stuff, submit it as a PDF or something. Anyway, submit one and at a minimum, and, but, in that way, we're not changing the ordinance in the checklist, but, and if, say we had a real controversial, really large major subdivision, we would have the option of requiring enough so that the town was not making all those, the 11 other copies at our expense, for members of the public, because we have to hold a public hearing or something.
But even if you said submit one, the town's still gonna have to copy 5 or 6 for the board.
Right, yeah, and that's why I thought, well, maybe it does require that one of them be electronic. And so if we did that, then Hans would have that, and he could just forward that to us rather than have to scan. And I assume what you do is you get the large plan, and then you reduce that. And
What, how do I reduce it? I can't reduce.
Oh, you can't reduce a full size
Just
plot
scan.
plan.
I'd have to
Okay,
go to Staples to do that.
so I think Mr. Dion's, you said that as,
His survey provider.
oh, okay, well, that's what I'm suggesting we continue to do in the checklist.
I know myself. I don't wanna read an application on the computer, I wanna have it in hard copy.
So I'm much better at looking at paper.
Yeah, well, I am
I don't
too.
know.
So I'm not, I guess my thinking is that I wouldn't argue for submitting an electronic copy or one paper copy. My thinking is, and sometimes you may need to. But I guess I wouldn't want to go to the idea that we're operating with an electronic copy for our primary.
No, not as our primary, it would definitely have to be paper. It's just a question of when we're reviewing an application in advance of a meeting.
Yeah.
Absent coming to the town office to look at the paper plan, is a electronic copy better than nothing, or,
Oh, yeah.
Like tonight, I looked at online and I said, I guess I'll go down and read it ahead of time because it was too much to
Yeah.
look at.
yeah, no, I'm the same.
I mean, it was there and it was good, but. It's good to have.
Here's my electronic copy.
Oh, yeah, well, see, I have the advantage that I have a desktop computer, so,
Marshall's got one, but I don't use it very.
so, yeah, that would be
So
impossible.
can we just? Preliminary 6 copies. Or we somehow word it where up to 12 copies made to the.
Yeah.
And now we're not changing the ordinance, but we're just requiring 6 copies.
Yeah, that would, something along those lines was my thought. Right, I guess we can decide that when the others are here, when we go through everything that's required.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, between now and I'll go through and identify those items that are in the checklist that are already covered in, the information that's already being requested in the application, so that we have that information. I'll make the change to page 2, or add something to page 2 about the explaining difference between minor and major, and you need to look at this conflict between when we notify the applicant that's in the checklist, and something else. Move on page 8. And it follows later on to move that business with the violation to the preliminary. And then we'll just take up the rest at the next meeting. You good with that?
Yep.
All right, good, something. Um. Oh, the fire department stormwater management plan review. You may recall, Hans sent us an email. Noting that the, plan, a stormwater management plan for the new fire station had been submitted to DEP as was required and approved by DEP. And I guess you were mostly sending that to us for our information. And I kind of got the wrong end of the stick, thinking maybe you were asking whether or not we needed to review it or not. And correct me if I'm wrong about this, Hans, you went on to explain in your email that the condition of approval regarding that was just that it be submitted so that we knew that it had been completed and approved by DEP.
Yeah, but I wanted you all to be able to review it in case you had questions and
Yeah.
or were aware of what it contains.
So this is mostly, I mean, we don't get to review and approve it per se, but it's mostly for our knowledge.
But just so you all do know, there is a provision in here, page 11 of 13 about transfer of the project. So this is only good for Sheridan. If they transfer the project, it needs to be done again.
Oh,
This permit will not transfer to another contract.
I didn't catch that.
So this, page 11, number 4, transfer of project,
Yeah.
unless otherwise provided, this applicant may not sell, lease, or assign. So this approval stays with Sheridan. Doesn't go to another contractor. Should something happen between Sheridan and the fire department. They'd have to do it again.
see, I read that as referring to the town of Belgrade rather than Sheridan as the contractor.
What number are you talking about?
Number 4, paragraph 4 on page 11.
Mhm.
How would the town sell, lease, or assign this project?
And that's typically how these standard conditions of approval, they go with the applicant rather than the contractor. And then it's the applicant's obligation to ensure their contractor follows them.
Yeah.
Sounds like a useless statement, then, you know, what the town's gonna do, the town project is where it is. How would we transfer, the town, how would the town transfer this project?
This approval in this order is directed to the town of Belgrade,
Okay,
which is pretty typical.
Yeah.
all right.
I mean, it's good that you raised that, but
Approval of transfer permit must be applied for no later than 2 weeks after any transfer of property subject to license. Sounds to me that transfer would be transfer of ownership. But
Right.
This is meant for the fire department
right,
and the owner. And
Yeah,
if it was to
which-
transfer ownership,
yeah.
then this wouldn't apply.
Yeah, the thing to remember too is a lot of these orders, you know. Aren't just for municipalities, of course, there's a lot of industrial. enterprises that these typically work, go to where properties are sold.
All right, well, now it's on public record, it's one person.
Yeah, absolutely. It's project file. Great, thank you.
I was a little surprised that, the, I don't know, vernal pool or whatever got addressed as easily as it did.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's good. So that's off to the fire department for dealing with them. So we have, the next item is, under old business would be, shoreline zone map status. I don't know if there's anything new on that.
Well, we've got the wildlife thing.
Got that. But are we also, this part of map thing, is part of that issue, the 4 or 5 lots or areas that aren't, addressed in the zoning map at this point?
Yeah, and incorrect lot lines, I found a couple other things.
I was gonna say, is that something that, a subcommittee, if you will, of the planning board could go out and look at these things and come back with recommendations about how we should be zoned, so that at some point we take these to the town to amend the map, to include because as I understand it, if we don't have it zoned, at least that's what I was told. If it's not zoned on the map, the least restrictive district applies.
Well, at least,
Yeah. So I don't think it's something we ought to wait forever to try to think of, to deal with, but how do we best go to these sites or whatever, and as a board conclude, we recommend this is limited residential, or this is, should be resource protection.
I guess you could start by Castle Island area. Take, copy the map and your subcommittee view that and determine what it needs to be.
Are you thinking just as part of the planning board meeting, or to actually do site visits to these sites?
I think the subcommittee could do
Like,
sites visits to the places that don't have any pigment on the map now,
I'd certainly be willing to be part of that. If we-
well. And I think if you get your committee together or individually, however you want to handle it, come back the next meeting, we can say you address this part and conclude that this should be blue or this should be orange or yellow, wherever.
Hans, in that vein, under this item for the next meeting, could you add something to that effect? Shoreline zone map status dash, establish subcommittee to do site visits of.
Do you feel like we need a subcommittee or, because that's getting kind of formal, or is it just establish a
Yeah.
site visit to this location?
It'd be like a site visit of whatever board members can do it, or
Coordinate site
interested.
visit.
Just site visit. type.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, site visits of
Coordinate site visit.
lots in question. So that way it would be a reminder to us to discuss this when the others are here, Sarah,
Okay.
here.
I'll detail a lot.
Because I think that's a good suggestion on Rich's part. I'll move the ball forward. There was a question that you had raised. Go ahead, write that down, and I'll ask my question. So my question was, and maybe I got the wrong end of the stick here, but I vaguely recall something that we had to consult with the tax assessor on and get some input from them. Or am I all wrong?
Well, there are some tax map lines that need to be changed. In Bombazine, for example, the 3 lots to the north, Sunny Ridge subdivision. Those lot lines go all the way across the wetlands, which is owned by Bombazine. So I mean, there's little corrections like that,
Right.
but I believe at least.
Is that something that has to be dealt with by us in advance of moving forward, or?
I think just a memo noting that, you know, in addition to the lots, the list I made that showed the lots that were resource protected.
Mhm.
If we can, maybe if the planning board writes a memo to the assessor to fix the lot lines.
So maybe, that doesn't get lost at the next meeting, add another to-do item, memo to tax assessor to correct property lines. Because obviously, we don't know which lots those are, but you do, and you can tell us. And then, does that make sense to you, Hans?
Yep.
That way, at least we're making a little bit of progress.
Okay.
All right, very good, thank you. Approve the minutes from July 16th. We have those in front of us. Won't we take 5 minutes?
How many people do we need to create this, you know?
Present Sarah, George. We got
You got three of you.
We got three. You, me, and Penny. You don't have to bother reviewing, Rich.
I'm gonna review it because I want to figure out what happened to the guy on.
Oh, no, we approved that. Job as always, and
Let's,
nice job as always.
oh, thank you. That's very kind.
Take a look at Benny. Benny, I have a couple of really minor suggested edits on page 2. About a third of the way down on under decision, second line, it reads them either are not applicable or site conditions suggest warranted approval. I would eliminate suggest the word suggest so that it just reads site conditions warranted approval.
Okay, sure.
Then there's some similar reason and last page, under battery energy storage system, second line, it wasn't West Gardner, it was Gardner.
Oh, it was Gardner?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's it.
all right.
So I'll entertain a motion.
Any other, did anybody?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of July 16th. As amended.
I'll second. All those in favor? Penny? Yes. Greg, yes. George, yes.
3.
Minutes are approved as amended.
All right.
Hans, do you have anything for us? No. Very good. None of these items that are sort of hanging on our to-do list.
Yeah, they're still out there.
Damn, I was hoping somebody'd do them for us.
The only thing, that certificate of occupancy requirement, should that be mentioned in an ordinance? And so where minimum lot size? Or it is requirement by the state, so do we need it in our ordinance? It's a state requirement, so do we just put a clause on the application? A statement on the application that says it's required. The loophole is, in order for us to enforce it, it needs to be in our ordinance. But the state requires it.
Is there a state agency that enforces that?
It falls under the fire marshal, but they don't check.
Right.
There's no audit.
So it really, as you said, it comes down to, does the town want to have the capability to enforce it? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it should be in the ordinance and on application as a statement. I've already put it on the application on the statement, but the enforceability of, and again, you get people that are creating Airbnbs out of old bunkhouses that don't need fire code or anything else, but they're renting them. There's no certificate of occupancy for those things. If somebody were to get hurt, where's the town liability fall? It's a twisted blend.
Well, my personal thought is that if we were going to go forward with something like that, it seems like the minimum lot size ordinance would be the logical ordinance to place that in.
And it can be in section 6 or the administrative part.
Yeah.
But again, nobody reads back that far.
Okay.
So should it also be mentioned somewhere else?
Yeah.
As a footnote or a note.
Yeah, I personally don't have any good thoughts, educated thoughts on any of those questions at the moment, other than that seems like the logical ordinance to me personally, but.
And again, it's coming back to town liability. Somebody gets hurt. And they say, well, was there a certificate of occupancy? And well, there's none required.
Yeah.
It's town ordinance, even though there's a state requirement. So where do we want to align ourselves?
What I don't know is how assume that's like a permit of a sort, and how that would be.
I just go through sanitation, septic, make sure the number of bedrooms that are in the house align with the septic design and what was put on the application.
You know,
And then it's all fire safety, smoke alarms, egress codes, stairwells. It's your very basic safety and sanitation. No electrical or anything.
yeah. And I don't know, I'm only babbling because I guess I'd need to be better informed about how the process would work and what would be entailed, but,
Basically, it's just an inspection at the end of the building. And like it says, just make sure there's enough room in your staircases. Make sure there's egress windows in the bedrooms
Handrails and
and rails. And basically that's about it.
okay. Yeah, like I said, I just don't know.
Firewalls on the garage.
Yeah.
Really that change.
And it's specifying to, usually the lender or the insurance company wants these. And it specifies that permits were taken out for the construction of that.
Do you know, whether it be renter, homeowners insurance or some comparable insurance for, a landlord, if they don't have a certificate of occupation, is there a penalty in terms of the insurance, either in terms of the rates or even the ability to get insurance?
Or that's it, then they require them for some mortgages or insurers. And insurance companies will do inspections and make people correct their handrails, or if there's a porch or stairs, it's more than 2 steps, it's gotta have a rail on one side. So they come back. And I think it's just good practice, because we are a town greater than 2,000 population, we're supposed to do it. That's the that's the state uses its population.
Well, maybe we should move this up if time allows. I don't know. Either at the next meeting or to a meeting shortly thereafter, from down in the bottom to. So that we can discuss it more fully and get your thoughts and recommendations on how to proceed.
Kind of applications you see for coming ahead.
Next meeting, we have 2 shoreline zone, there's another one in the wind, so the shoreline zone applications are picking up. And knock on wood, no commercials or something.
Definitely.
There's one possible commercial, but I really don't think it meets the criteria of our ordinance, so. There's gonna be no business in town without going through.
That'd be good. Anything else, Hans, for us?
That's all I got.
What did you have about CDRO? Do you want minutes? I didn't get it. Commercial development, you were just talking about it. Did you want to?
No, I said there's not gonna be an application.
There's not gonna be an application. So we don't read that in minutes.
That's it. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you all.